Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with the 5 greatest Bartók recordings. Oh, this was fun. I go on Bartók binges. He was an amazing composer. And, every so often I give him a rest, and then I come back to him, and it's like love all over again. It's such a wonderful, wonderful opportunity to reintroduce yourself to a composer who had just extraordinarily fertile imagination and remarkable formal gifts as well. And there's very little he wrote that wasn't very, very high quality. I mean, just the level of what he achieved is pretty phenomenal. And here are the 5 greatest. And as with everything in this series, where you've got composers who wrote in multiple media, you must include at least 2 or 3 of those media. Don't just do orchestral music or piano music or, mix it up. Let's have a little fun. So, number 1, music for strings, percussion, and Celesta. Now, this work has had just like dozens of dreadful recordings. It's a tough piece to bring off. You've got the stereoscopic layout of the orchestra with 2-string orchestras, one left and one right, with the percussion and stuff in the middle. And it has to be played with great rhythmic precision. I mean, really great rhythmic precision. And there's a temptation to take a lot of it just too slowly. Bartók's own tempos are really quite swift, amazingly swift. And there are only a couple performances that observe them. They don't have to be done literally. Sándor Vég, who recorded the work, quite well actually said that, Bartók told him that the timings, and Bartók wrote timings for each section within a movement, like from rehearsal figure A to B, 5 minutes and 12 seconds, or, 85 seconds, or, he was incredibly precise. But he said, that's not for people who understand how my music's supposed to go. That's for the people who don't know how to conduct it, and they ignored them anyway because people always do. But anyway, the recording of choice. This might come as a shock to some of you. Neville Marriner with the Academy of St. Martin in the Fields on Decca. Now, Marriner, of course, was a wonderful conductor of Baroque music, but he did quite a bit of contemporary music, and he was extremely good at it. The reason he was extremely good at it is because Marriner was not by nature a hot-blooded romantic. He was a classicist or a neoclassicist. Bartók was, by and large, at least formally, with his incredibly well-structured music, a classicist in outlook. I mean, he had his expressionist moments. The Miraculous Mandarin is hardly classicist. But in his later works, anyways, mature works, he was something of a classicist. And the point is that Marriner gives the music the precision that it requires, and he doesn't stint on its emotional affect. But the emotional affect with Bartók, you don't have to work at. It's built in. I mean, the slow movement of this work is, it was used in The Shining. It's terrifying. And there's no way to de-terrify it. You can't take the horror and mystery and atmosphere out of Bartók's music because it's part of the timbre, the instrumental color. So Marriner is terrific at all of that stuff, and he delivers an absolutely dynamic performance. It's one of the best things he's ever done. Well, there you go. Piano works, all of them. They're in a box with Zoltan Kocsis on Philips originally, now Decca. And, if you get the right box, you can also get the piano concertos and the music for strings, percussion, and Celesta, and the earlier piano pieces, all kinds of stuff. The earlier pieces for piano and orchestra that aren't that well known, the Scherzo and some other pieces. But for solo piano music, it's a 6-disc box, and it has everything, and it will never be done better. Period. I mean, who are we kidding? Kocsis is just a master at this music. I mean, he's one of the few people who can hypnotize you into listening to the entire microcosmos from beginning to end. Bartók's piano works are mostly short. There's a piano sonata, there's a couple suites, but there aren't that many large pieces. They're mostly dances and folk things and didactic pieces and little, groups of stuff. But they're wonderful. They're wonderful little nuggets of Hungarian joy. And Kocsis just plays the daylights out of him. It's an amazing set. Then, if you don't get the piano concertos with Kocsis, well, you got to get the piano concertos. And whether you have Kochises or not, these are different enough and important enough that you should have them. Géza Anda and Ferenc Fricsay. It's a classic disc. I mean, it's the reference. It was recorded, thank God, in stereo, and it's really quite different from the way these pieces are often presented today, which is in a sort of neo-Stravinskyan, very rhythmic, very almost mechanical way, which is a mistake, I think, in a lot of respects, because Bartók's inspiration for these pieces was always Hungarian folk music. And even though he could treat the instruments wonderfully percussively, I mean, I love his banging and clanging piano works and the way he handles percussion instruments and all of those things are just really revolutionary and fascinating. But behind it all, there is folk song. And Anda and Fricsay understand that, and they give the music an earthy songfulness, and at times, such as, the finale of the first concerto and whatnot, they relax a little bit. They're not driving so hard all the time. I mean, it's very exciting when people drive all the time. I don't want to say that in a negative way, because most of the time it's thrilling. But there is a different approach. And you hear that in these performances. You hear that the melancholy, the lyricism, even in those movements that are pretty poundy and bangy. And they're just marvelous performances for that reason. And they richly earned their reference status. Next, Bluebeard's Castle. Oh, I love Bluebeard's Castle. They say about Bluebeard's Castle, it's an opera about three characters: Bluebeard, Judith, and the castle. The castle is the orchestra. The castle is the other character. And oh, what a cool atmospheric opera it is. It's so much fun. It really is. I mean, if you really look at it too closely, of course, the plot's idiotic. And I mean, you don't want to try and psychoanalyze what's going on there. But, in an hour, she gets the keys to all the doors. And in getting the keys to all the doors, she loses him. It's just so nifty. And Christa Ludwig, Walter Berry, Istvan Kertész on Decca. It's a classic, absolutely a classic. Fabulous singing by the two principals, absolutely marvelous, who learned Hungarian, obviously, for the purpose. Christa Ludwig has never been better. Walter Berry, who's always an underrated baritone, sings with real insight. And since they were married at the time, you can really get a sense that they were getting closer to being unmarried at the time, which is what ultimately happened to them a few years later. But, who knows what domestic issues were at work in this performance. Whatever it is, it went perfectly. It's a stunning and stunningly well recorded, gorgeously recorded performance as well. So after Bluebeard's Castle, well, we've got to do the Concerto for Orchestra, Bartók's most popular work, and the recording to end all recordings. Raphael Kubelik with the Boston Symphony on Deutsche Grammophon. A glorious interpretation of a work that's had many. It was something of a calling card with Kubelik. He recorded it a couple of times, and he was always a passionate exponent of Bartók's music. And the Boston Symphony, which gave the premiere, remember, it was a joint commission between Koussevitzky and Marriner, and when Bartók was sick and dying, actually. And Koussevitzky led the premiere. Boston Symphony is the Bartók Concerto for Orchestra. They play it so atmospherically. It's such insolent virtuosity. I mean, you're just not aware of the strain that the piece puts on the players, just the fact that they're making glorious music. And Kubelik judges the tempos perfectly, and he's got the balances just right. Oh, wow, it's just amazing. So there you have it, the 5 greatest Bartók recordings. I'm really interested to hear yours. Let us have them. And keep on listening, friends. Thank you so much for joining me. Take care.